Hello and welcome to all of you in this second live session of this massive open online course on plagiarism. Today we have with us Dr. Garima Dalal as an expert who will throw light on the tips and techniques of paraphrasing. And this session is going to be very interactive, so be ready and participate enthusiastically. Now I request to Professor Sangeeta ma'am to please welcome our guest.
A very good afternoon to our expert for this live session, Dr. Garima Dalal, to the main course instructor, Ms. Rashmi, and our dear participants. It is indeed an honor to welcome our expert, Dr. Garima, and all of you to this live streaming. As Rashmi said, this is the second live session for this MOOC course on plagiarism. The next week, the 5th, will be the last one, and with it, hopefully, will end all the misconceptions most of us had about plagiarism. This course, let me reiterate, has the patronage of a very eminent and renowned personality, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, Padma Shri awardee and Dr. B.C. Roy awardee, Professor Dr. Mahesh Verma. We are indeed very thankful to him for his continuous, unconditional support, blessings, and constant motivation. I would be failing in my duty if I do not mention also the wholehearted support of the registrar of our university, Shri Ravi Dadiji, and of course the good wishes of Professor Dhananjay Joshi, the present dean. A very brief outline of the conception and organization of this MOOC. It began with a need analysis survey for finalizing the topic for this MOOC. And plagiarism emerged distinctively and is the reason for the 1,600 registrations from all over the country, comprising participants of all disciplines and fields, of all ages and professional levels, and even from a varied array of professions. The various modules covered in the past few weeks can be very, very briefly summed up as the conceptual understanding of plagiarism in the first module, which began on the 6th of July. The types of plagiarism in the second module. Then the plagiarism detection software, both open and commercial, in the third module. Wherein we had the first live streaming by Dr. A.P. Singh, Deputy Librarian of our university. And in this fourth module, this comprises practices to avoid plagiarism through paraphrasing, citation, referencing, and so on. And to broaden our horizons regarding the same, we have with us for the second live streaming, Dr. Garima. Dr. Garima Dalal is a linguist teaching English for academic writing to research scholars and postgraduates at Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU, popularly known as New Delhi. She has been teaching English language and linguistics for the past 14 years in various international universities like the South Asian University, and also in national universities like Jamia Millia Islamia and Delhi University. Dr. Dalal has been a resource person at many national and international organizations and universities like the University of Essex in the United Kingdom, the Staff Selection Commission, Government of India, JNU, along with assisting in speech and language therapy at the National Health Services, NHS of the United Kingdom. She serves as a reviewer to numerous international journals and has also actively reviewed documentaries. Her book on innovations in English language teaching in India, Trends in Language Pedagogy and Technology, has been published by Lexington Books, USA. She has been a co-researcher in a UK Literacy Association, UKLA, funded project on critical thinking. Recently, she completed a project on first-generation English speakers' fluency at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Paucity of time does not permit me to go through the entirety of Dr. Dalal's academic achievements. So pardon me for not doing justice to her accomplishments. Over to you, Dr. Garima.
Thank you, Professor Chauhan, and thank you, Dr. Rashmi, for giving me this platform. It's an honor to share my learnings and the learnings that I've had from the students at JNU and through my career, and what a wonderful audience. So I look forward to more sessions in which we can interact and share knowledge. So this is a wonderful opportunity that I've been given, and it's a brilliant work that you are conducting, MOOC programs for students all across the country. It gives me immense pleasure to know that IP University is doing so well. So before taking any more time, I thank the university, the organizers for giving me this opportunity, especially Professor Sangeeta Chauhan and Dr. Rashmi. Thank you. So before taking any more time, should we begin?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure,
Please.
sure, dear.
All right. Okay. Hi. I will start my presentation. Is my PPT visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Not yet.
Okay. Hi. So welcome to another session of paraphrasing tips and techniques. Paraphrasing is an important concept when we get into the field of writing, especially academic writing. For this, this is the core area, and as we proceed further, you will probably know a few concepts that you have already learned from the MOOC program. I might have a few tips to share along with in support to the documents that have already been shared with you. So the first and foremost point is, what is paraphrasing and why do we need it? But before we begin, let me start with an example. Let's have a look at a passage which is 85 words long, and it starts, it is about language. When we are reading, many a times we are expected to know the difference between what is a summary and what is a paraphrase. So if you can look at your screens, you will see that there's an original passage of 85 words where Kispert is talking about how
Ma'am,
language functions.
sorry to disturb you, but your presentation is not visible.
Yes, that's true. I thought I'm the only one.
I'll
I think
start
only
again.
Rashmi can see it.
Ma'am, no, it's visible.
Ma'am, it's visible.
Kindly info, ma'am, so we can see. Now it is visible to us. So please pin Dr. Garima, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we can
It
see
might be because of some bandwidth problem, but don't worry, I will go very slow and I will give you enough time for the PPT. So do bear with me. If you I hope you can all have a look at the passage. Quickly go through the passage. What does the original say? In 85 words, what is Kispert saying? He's talking about language, that language is the main means of communication between people. But so many different languages have developed that language has often been a barrier rather than an aid to understanding among people. And it goes on. Now, the crucial point here is when would we paraphrase and when would we summarize? So, having a look at this, and I will bring this slide again back to you, I want 3 answers from the participants here. The first question that I have for you is, and you can note it down, how many sentences constitute the original passage? When we go back to the slide, have a look at how many sentences are there in the original passage. How many sentences do we have in the paraphrase? And how many sentences do we have in the summary? Okay, this is the first question that I have for the participants. So quickly have a look. Have a look at the original. If we can see, and if you can see my cursor, sentence 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have 4 sentences in the original passage. But when we come to the paraphrase, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the number of sentences has gone up in the paraphrase. Let's look at the summary. How many sentences do we have here? We have 1 and we have 2. So if we look at the original, the paraphrase, and the summary, the first concept that we should note is a paraphrase might be of the same length as the original, or it might be more than the original. Whereas in a summary, it is a condensed form of information. So when you condense information, it definitely brings the number of sentences down to 2. Now, quickly, my second question to the participants. Which 2 details were left in the original summary in comparison to the paraphrase when compared to the original paragraph? Look at the 2 details which are missing in the summary. I'll give you 2 minutes and you can write your response in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. I'll ask Dr. Rashmi to coordinate, and she can unmute 1 or 2 of the participants and they can find out the difference. The first paragraph, which is the paraphrase, and the summary. We are only looking at these 2 here. I'm sure some of you have already figured it out, but I would like to go back to the chat box and read it. Barrier, communication barrier. Yes, Mamta. Vinny is saying barrier, Mamta is saying communication. Yes, communication part 2. What else? What else was missing? Communication. Right. So what exactly do we understand between the original, the paraphrase and the summary, and in what context do we use it in academic writing? The first and foremost point is, when do we need to summarize and when do we need to paraphrase? We summarize a lengthy text, we summarize a book, we summarize an article, we summarize points, we summarize the main highlights of a paper. But when do we paraphrase? We paraphrase only a few sentences or maybe a small paragraph. So the usage of summary and paraphrase is different when we come to academic writing. I hope this point is clear. So before going further, paraphrase, I would like to share a few points about paraphrase. Paraphrase is also called as patchwork. I hope you've all seen dresses with patchwork. Patchwork is small pieces of little cloth from different colors, from different types of cloth, and they are patched together to make one bigger cloth. A lot of us think that paraphrase is patchwork, but when it becomes patchwork, we end up plagiarizing. So paraphrase is definitely not patchworking. What we need to take care of is how we are paraphrasing. I will discuss that in detail, but let us get to the definition. So a few points that come to my mind when we talk about paraphrase is you rearrange or you rephrase the source information. Obviously, when we are writing an academic paper, we need certain supporting details to make our argument, our point stronger in our essay or in our assignment. So paraphrasing is a great technique when we are using supporting materials. There are 3 options when we want to use those supporting materials. Number 1 is quoting, where you directly quote from somebody. Number 2 is you make a summary out of it. You highlight the main points and you use it. And the third type is paraphrasing, where you rearrange or rephrase the source information, the information that you're receiving, that you're reading. Number 2, it is presenting this information by in your own words, obviously, but retaining the specificity of the message of the original. Means you do not distort the meaning of the original source or the original author. You are only using his ideas or his concepts or his points to support your argument or to support your concept. Number 3 is when you're writing it in your own words, in your own language, you do not, it does not mean that you will not give credit to the original author. So 3 very important points when we deal with this. Okay, so this is how I come. So paraphrasing is putting information from a source into your own words, but without changing the original meaning that you used. It goes without saying that whenever you are using information from any source, you need to acknowledge that source. Summarizing, on the other hand, is putting the main ideas only, the main points, the highlights. So you have a lot of scope to delete the unwanted points that you do not want, points which are not necessary, points which are supporting them, you don't require them. So you must be clear about the difference between summarizing and paraphrasing. Another great example of summarizing and paraphrasing is, which I've been sharing with my students, is let's say you go for a movie and when you come back, your friend asks you, so how was it? You say, well, it was great, and you know, it was about this plot of, it was a romantic plot or a romantic thriller. And then he says, no. Who were the actors? You know, how did the movie go? and he wants to know the scene by scene details. Now you tell me, what would be which? Would the gist be a summary or a paraphrase, or the scene by detail be a paraphrase or a summary? And I'm looking for your response in the chat box. Let's see who answers it. The gist. Okay, so Prakash Chandra, the gist is paraphrasing. The second one, the detail would be paraphrasing? Yes. Well, when we are talking about the gist, when I'm making a gist of the movie, then it is a summary, because I've just included the main highlights of the movie and I've told him the outline. But when we are paraphrasing, I will give a point-wise, scene-wise detail to my friend. And last but not the least is quoting. Means when you are giving a brief segment of the source as it is, word for word, without changing any details. So you let the reader know that you have quoted directly from the source by including them in inverted commas. And in all the three, what applies? The acknowledgement to the source, because that's what helps us to avoid plagiarism. Moving on further. So as we have gathered the information, that summarizing is a way to use borrowed information from a source which is outside our text, but which is supporting our ideas. The only thing that you're doing when you're summarizing is you are shortening the context for the most important points. So it is more likely that you are skimming the text for the cream, for the gist, for the main points, for the highlights. Whereas you leave out the other information or details which are not required from you, which are not of any use to you in your writing. Paraphrasing, on the other hand, is rewriting. You are writing the same thing again. Somewhat I feel, paraphrasing is a lot closer to quoting than summarizing. And I'll give you the detail why I feel so. So when you are quoting something, you are taking the words as it is. But how much can you quote? And sometimes you feel that the quotation can be written in your own words and you can express the same by penning it down and making sure that it fits well into your writing, taking into consideration what was written before and after. So obviously, it does not go without the fact that you are going to give acknowledgement to the original source, but you still rewrite it in your own words. Too much of quotation is also not permitted and it amounts to plagiarism. So we usually paraphrase very short text. We rewrite everything in a paraphrase. And when we are dealing with longer text, paragraphs or pages, chapters or findings, then we are usually summarizing the main ideas of the author. So I hope the difference between summarizing, paraphrasing and quotation is clear. You obviously avoid unnecessary details when the main point of a passage is all that you need. Summarizing is also a way of showing your understanding about the source. When we are writing a literature review chapter or when we are reviewing literature in the process of deciding a topic, we usually summarize text. It also gives our audience a general idea or an introduction to the source. That I have read this source and I have understood the concepts and I have written them in my own words. Obviously, many a times we also expect that when our thesis or our work goes forward to the experts, it refreshes their memory about the source that we're talking about. So that's when we use summarizing. Let us have a look at the example here. This is the original text of 103 words, and this is an acceptable summarized text. Now what I want you to do is, I want you to note what has changed. So if we start with the the first original text, that for most people, writing is extremely difficult if they're trying to grapple in their language with new ideas and new ways of looking at them. Sitting down to write can be an agonizing experience, which doesn't necessarily get easier with passage of time and the accumulation of experience. For this reason, you need to reflect upon and analyze your own actions to the task of writing. That is to say, the task will become more manageable if you learn how to cope with your own particular ways, avoiding putting off the moment when you must put pen to paper. This is by Taylor, 1989, page 3. So he is given a proper citation to the original text that he is taken. As we can see, there is a citation here and there are the quotation marks. But when he has summarized, what has he done? How have we got the word inexperienced and skilled writers? Can you tell me where has skilled writers come from? I want the answers in the chat box. Skilled writers. Skilled writers. It's come from the original, but is it available in the original? What does it say in the original? Inexperienced comes from where? Yes, they're not paraphrasing, Sanjay. They're not paraphrasing, they are only summarizing. Yes, it is always necessary to provide a reference in the summarized context. Bracking voice. Okay, my voice is breaking probably, Prince. Accumulation of experience. Very good. Deepa, I missed your answer. Correct. So, Dr. Bist, you are right on to the correct answer. Yes, skilled writers. Skilled writers was an accumulation of experience. Where has the other words come from? What about anguish? Did they use the word anguish? What about accumulation of experience? Yes. Oops, sorry. Collection. Very good. Yes, it is a collection, accumulation of experiences collection. Where have we got the word anguish? Anguish, great deal of anguish when faced with writing task. Anguish is extremely difficult task. Can you see here? Writing is an extremely difficult task if they're trying to grapple their language with new ideas and looking at me. So they put this word as anguish. They have to, writers can feel a great anguish. Right? However, this response can be managed by recognizing and coping with personal avoidance strategies. Where has this come from? It has come from this factor. Agonizing is also anguish, which doesn't necessarily get easier with the passage of time. It can be easier. Yes, agonizing. Poonam, I can't understand. Trying for paraphrasing gives experience. It is collection. Yes. Okay, so I hope summarizing is clear. Now let us go to paraphrasing. I'll give you an example of paraphrasing here. You remember the first text we talked about. And when we are talking about paraphrasing, these are the steps that we need to follow when we are paraphrasing. You read the text several times to understand what the author is saying. Now here what is very important is you do not change the meaning of the original author's intent. If it is supporting your claim or not, you have to make sure that you demarcate between when You are saying as a writer, where are your opinions and where are the opinions of the author or the source that you are paraphrasing. That demarcation is very important. So that's one point. So you read the original passage several times, try to understand it. There might be some few unfamiliar words. Look them up and look for synonyms. Now, obviously, possible synonyms are very important, but not all synonyms work equally well in all contexts. This is a very important point. We must make sure that we should not blindly follow synonyms. They should fit in the context that you're using in. You write down only a few words for each idea and not complete sentences. This is called keywords. So basically, you take out keywords from the passage. Let's say I have a passage and I will show you how it works. So you take out the key words from the passage, note them down like I have. Look at this first. Look at number 4. These are the points. These are the words that I had got from the passage that we had seen earlier. He's talking about language. People used to communicate. People use language to communicate. But so many difficult to understand one another people wish universal international language. There are reasons he talks about: cultural, economic bonds, better feelings between countries. So after reading that passage, I've made these two major areas. Number 1 was that language is used by people to communicate. He's making 2 points under the same claim. 1, so many languages make it difficult for us to understand one another. And number 2, people wish that they have one universal international language. The second point that he discussed in the first paragraph that we had seen were the reasons: cultural, economic bonds, and better feelings between countries. So what have I done? I have broken down the information, or I have deconstructed that information into points, into my own ideas, into the ideas that I gained out of that passage. Now, once I have this information, I will check if the meaning of the original is in the same manner and I have not added any information from myself or given any wrong information, because that would amount to plagiarism as well. And at the end, we will add an in-text citation. So remember, paraphrasing is an alternate to direct quoting. I'm just looking at the chat box to make sure. So yes, Varun, summarizing is basically your own interpretations. No, it is not. If we are using our interpretations, do we need to mention the source? Okay, so you've got me wrong. The thing is, when you are summarizing, you have to do justice to the original author's source. So you have to make sure to let the readers know when you are writing your own ideas, sharing your own ideas, and when you are sharing other person's ideas. That demarcation is very important. I will show you in the examples that follow. Note making leads to better paraphrasing. Absolutely, yes, Dr. Prakash, you are right. Making notes is a wonderful task and it helps us in a lot of manners. Let's look at this example. Now we have the original text for 45 words. And usually when we are writing those 45 words in our own words, we will be using more words. If you look, we had the original text for 45 words, but the paraphrase text is 56 words. The number of words has increased. Obviously, because sometimes we would not be using exact synonyms. We would be explaining or getting into details. Let us look at the example in the original. It says, traditionally, in oral and written discourses, the masculine pronoun he was used as a pronoun to refer to a person whose gender was unknown or irrelevant to the context. But recently, this usage has come under criticism for supporting gender-based stereotypes and is increasingly considered inappropriate. And Smith is saying that. Let's look at the paraphrase version. So if the gender of the person was not known or was unimportant, because irrelevant, they have changed to unimportant. to the meaning of the oral or written text. He has changed the word discourses to text. It was customary. It was a custom. It was a tradition. So he is using the word traditionally like this. To use the masculine form of he, and he is not saying masculine pronoun, masculine form of he when a pronoun was required. So he has used it in a different way. He continues on, however, there has been a growing concern, and it said recently. So there is a growing concern because it is under criticism about this practice in modern usage, because it's a modern time, and because it appears to privilege. Now, whereas he's talking about the stereotypes, supporting the gender-based stereotypes, and is increasingly considered inappropriate. He has started with the inappropriacy and moved on to privileged stereotypes based on gender. Instead of saying gender-based, he's saying based on gender, and he's given the reference. I hope this is clear. So coming back to your, yes, Dr. Sangeeta, Varun, yes, absolutely. So moving on further, let's look at the same example where we have the original and the paraphrase. Let's have a look at the original. The original says, the mere physical proximity of one person to another is a potent facilitator of attraction. And this is by Martin et al., 2007, page number 757. Let's look at the paraphrase. Attraction between two people. So he has, now he is giving more priority or more weightage to attraction. Attraction between two people. Now, attraction comes here. It ended the sentence, but it is the first sentence, the first word in the paraphrase. Between two people, between one another, between one person to another. He's changed that. He's changed physical proximity to physical closeness, by their physical closeness. So these are the details that they have changed. Physical proximity was changed to physical closeness. Of one person to another, he's changed to between two people. X is a potent facilitator of Y. We can say that Y is greatly influenced by X. So we have overturned we have changed the word order, we've changed the sentence structure. Yes. Physical proximity is the subject of the sentence in the original, but my subject here now is attraction in the paraphrase. So I hope this is clear. Okay, so Dr. Prakash, why do you think that this paraphrase is not acceptable? This is just an example. Paraphrase can be extended if it demands for better explanation. Absolutely, I would definitely agree with you here. Okay, moving on further. Let us have this example, and I would ask for answers here. There would be a text, and there would be 4 paraphrases which would be available to you. Now, all the participants are expected to write their answers for 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 4 paraphrases that you will see. Write the best against which one of you, which one do you feel out of the 4 is the best paraphrase. Write too similar, which is too sim, for a paraphrase which is too similar to the original. Write no cit or no citation if there is no in-text citation to that paraphrase, and write inaccurate or incomplete for the information if it is there. Let me show you an example. Now this is an example. The source is from page number 16 of a 3-page article which was published in October 15, 2003 issue of Space Science magazine. This is the title and the author's name. Now the sentence that we are paraphrasing here is living aboard a space station in orbit around Earth for months at a time poses problems for astronauts' bodies as well as for their minds. Now, out of A, B, C, and D, Have a look at these and tell me which of the four options do you think fits. The four options, the four match the following were these. Best, you have to look for the best paraphrase, a paraphrase which is too similar to the original, a paraphrase which has no in-text citation, and a paraphrase which has totally incomplete or inaccurate information. I'll give all the participants 1 minute. You can write your answers in the chat box. Wonderful. Yes, B has no citation. That was the easiest to guess. What about A? What about C? C is too similar, A is too similar. Okay. What about D? Nobody's talking about D. Can we say an article in Space Science, I'm reading out D, an article in Space Science reports that astronauts will become physically sick and have mental problems if they visit a space station? Was it ever mentioned? Was it ever mentioned? No, exactly, it was never mentioned. Yes, this is inaccurate or incomplete information. Now the question lies between C and A. What do you think is C and what do you think is A? So now we are exhausted with C, bodies and minds, too similar, too similar. So the correct answers were, and most of you have got it correct, is that C was too similar to the original. A was definitely inaccurate or incomplete. They have added information. B did not have a citation. And A has most likely all the information that was required. So I hope you're learning fast. Now let us look at the examples of paraphrasing. Okay, so you've already done this exercise. There's an original source in which an author has used, in a paper, differentiation as an instructional approach promotes a balance between a student's style and a student's ability. Differentiated instruction provides the student with options for processing and internalizing the content for constructing new learning in order to progress academically. Now at the bottom, we have a perfect example of bad paraphrasing. Obviously, the first good thing about the bad paraphrase is that he has given a proper in-text citation. But the words that are underlined are simply synonyms. Encourage equality. Approach and talent of the student. So these are exact duplicates of what was used in the original. So the two things that you need to keep in mind are you use synonyms but wisely, and you use sentence structures, but not the way the original uses. And obviously if you do that, it does come in the similarity index of Turnitin and other plagiarism checkers. So a good example of this would be if we say teachers use differentiated instruction to help students learn, allowing the teacher to cater lessons to the way each student learns and each student's skill. Here the choice of words is obviously unique. He has a free hand. He has condensed that information. We might have expanded depending on how we would have looked at the text. So these are ways in which a paraphrasing is governed. Now, the most important example, please pay attention. We would be discussing this in detail. Let us look at an excerpt from Consumer Reports on bike helmets, which are used as lifesavers, or they are unused lifesavers. It was published in 1990. The original text is, of more than 1,000 cycling deaths each year, 3/4 are caused by head injuries. Half of those killed are school-age children. One study concluded that wearing a bike helmet can reduce the risk of head injury by 85%. In an accident, a bike helmet absorbs the shock and cushions the head. Now, when I read this text, I can make a few notes like we did earlier, that not wearing a bike helmet obviously causes fatal injuries. We all know that. Wearing a helmet means less chance of head injury. That helmet cushions the head in case we fall. And of all the deaths that are caused by bike accidents, 75% they happen to have head injuries. And half of these deaths are of children because they're not wearing helmets, or probably their parents are not taking good care of them. So, and I fail to understand why my slides have gone missing. Sorry for the inconvenience. So just a minute. Yes. So the paraphrase can be that bike helmets can help reduce potentially fatal biking accidents. 3/4 of biking accidents are caused by head injuries, of which 50% involves children. A helmet protects the head of a cyclist during an accident by reducing the impact on the head. Now, so I've written a rough paraphrase out of the notes that we had made from the original passage. So once you've done this technique, you've read the original, you've made the notes, and you've paraphrased, this is not where paraphrasing ends. This is where the real task begins. So once you've written, now let's look at the original and the paraphrased version. The problem with the original and the paraphrased version is that my second sentence, 3/4 of biking accidents are caused by head injuries, is very similar to my original. Right? It is very similar. Number 2, I have not added. So what I've done is, if I have two similar words, it is always advisable to put them in quotation marks. So I've given quotation marks. And my question is, why have I used quotation marks, but in between the quotation marks, I have put these square brackets? Can one of you or some of you share your ideas? Why have we used square brackets in the quotations? Any guesses? Any guesses? Come on, let's share your opinions. You can be wrong, you can be right. Well, that's how we learn. So share your opinions. Bracket is for paraphrase or inserted words. Good idea, actually, the way you've got it. No, they're not the same words. They're not the same words. They're not citations at all. Not direct citing either. You are using quotations, gives you credibility. Very good, yes. It does give you credibility. But I have used the square bracket because that is my addition. It was never there in the original. The original says 3/4 are caused by head injuries. So we use quotation marks, obviously, but when we use quotation marks, and if I'm adding something on my own, which was not there in the original, then I am putting that information in square brackets. That means that information is not from the original, but the writer's addition to the quotation. I hope I've made my point clear. Yes, I have added information, new information. Perfect. Moving on. when quoting directly, you must put the page number, because I am not using the page number here because it is not a direct quotation. I am putting a page number here which says page 348 because I am using an information, and at the end of the information, I must tell my reader that this information is from a specific page. So please remember these 2 points very clearly. And obviously in the end, I have to again give an in-text citation because I want to make sure to my reader that the second sentence is also not my original work, not my idea. I am still taking this information from this source. So I hope this is clear. Moving on further. Now let us see this. In the second sentence, I have changed this information from 3/4 out of 1,000, which makes it 75%. So I can say head injuries accounted for 75% of biking accidents with deadly outcomes. So that's a very good way of altering the information. I'm not changing the fact, I'm only counting, and I'm giving a percentage instead of writing it 3/4. Again, an interesting thing that has been done is head injuries here in the original was not the subject, but it is the subject in the second sentence of my paraphrase. So I hope these points are clear to you. I hope these points are clear to you. And at every stage, even after this stage, if I'm giving this information, I'm giving the in-text citation, and afterwards I'm giving an in-text citation to make sure that I'm not plagiarizing, and my reader knows when I'm sharing my opinion and when I'm sharing an information that I have learned from a source. So this is in between the presentation. I have 8 questions for you. We've discussed ample. I have a few more exercises that I'll show you. But before that, you have to answer this first question. Which of these must you remember while paraphrasing? Share your answers in the chat box. Yes, it is C. Cite the information of the source. Cite the source of the information. Right? Cite the source of the information. You do not use quotation marks because that will be citation. You don't italicize it unless you know it really says so. You italicize 1 or 2 words and it's in a different context, especially in literature, if it's a known concept. And you are not using the exact same words as the source. So C. The next question, and I don't want the answers from the participants who've already given me the answer to this one. Why is a source important to paraphrasing? Why is a source important to paraphrasing? This is a very easy question. Sorry. A, yes, obviously it is A. Great. Wonderful. What about third question? Which of these is a benefit of paraphrasing? How do we get benefited from paraphrasing? Why is the answer B? Anybody? The answer is correct, obviously. Paraphrasing a source lends credibility to your writing, yes. But why? Absolutely right, but why? Why credibility? Why does it to your writing? Because you're using it as a supporting detail, as a supporting statement to your writing. What about number 4? When paraphrasing, in order to avoid plagiarism, you must Actually, the answer is A. You must cite the source. You can't change any words or phrases that match the original too closely. You can do that, but both, yes, you can cite the source and change any words that match the original too closely. Yes, I think C. A, B, C? No, that's definitely not the right answer. C is. But the moment I said A, a lot of you started writing A. Why is that? Divya, you are right. We draw our ideas on others' writing, so we must give them credit. Absolutely. When paraphrasing, the ideas and meanings of the original source must be maintained. The wording must be your own. All of these answers are correct, or the main ideas need to come through. Which one? Why is there a divide? Why is there a divide? Obviously, A, yes, it is correct. B is correct. The wording must be yours. The ideas and meanings of the original source must be maintained. The main ideas must come through. So all these answers are correct. It is C. It is C. Yes. What about paraphrasing? So paraphrasing is? Most of my answers are C. Yes. Most of my answers are C. I just realized that. Okay, this is the second last question, but obviously we are going to continue. Which of these presents the idea not in the exact words of the original? Which of these presents the ideas not in the exact words of the original? We have two answers, both A and B. Both A and B. Definitely not B, Kalpana, no. No, because citing and quoting, you are not using the exact words. Okay? A. Which of these do not require quotations? Again, A and B. A and B, yes, we don't require quotations at all. Right? So missed a few points here. Let me go back. I know I'm going on a faster pace. So these are the critical techniques that you need to keep in mind. Number one, it's a good idea. You can change nouns to verbs. You can change the word order in paraphrasing. It's always advisable to break long sentences. And I think readers do, there are two benefits. One, it attracts the readers. And number two is it makes sure that you would not go ungrammatical, right? So grammar would be intact. Then coordinating sentences, grammar, style, and usage with respect to previous sentences or paragraphs. So paraphrase is one such thing which gives you that extra edge. You have to make sure that when you are paraphrasing and incorporating it in your writing, it should follow and be in sync with your paragraph that you were writing before that, or the sentence that you were writing before that. The grammar has to be same, the voice has to be the same, so that it runs in a smooth manner. Even the tense. A lot of people think that tense would go their tense goes haywire because we don't change the tense, right? When you're writing it in your own words, you can change the tense, right? You just have to keep the intact, the meaning of the original author intact. Obviously, another important point when you're paraphrasing is you must demarcate which ideas are yours and which ideas are from the source. And in the end, give a proper citation to the source. Give a proper citation to the source. So I hope I have answered all your queries and questions. And this is an example of how you change a noun to a verb. So for example, let's look at the first example here. The use of a microscope is essential for a full comprehension of the technique. Okay? So we can change the noun use of to using, and fully understanding, or in order to understand, or in order to fully understand can be one way. So these are some examples of noun to verb. Another example of changing the word order is, like we saw, you make, if you have two sentences, let's say there are several categories of race and ethnicity. These include Hispanic, American, Indian, and Filipino. You start your sentence and make it your main subject. So Hispanic, American Indian, and Filipino are examples of the various categories of race and ethnicity. So these two techniques are going to really help you. I hope this was an interesting session. And in the end, I would definitely like to take some questions. These are the references. Some of them are available online. The other sources I've given at the bottom of the slides that I was discussing. And if you have any more queries, you can contact me. Thank you. So let's get to the chat box. I'll stop presenting and I'll start taking your questions. Thank you, Meenakshi. No questions? Please share your questions. Okay, so how do we self-evaluate if our paraphrase is appropriate or not? If you're following this techniques, Dr. Prakash, Dr. Panda, then I'm sure if you first paraphrase your sentences or the paragraph that you intend to, and then keep it aside for a while, go back, and then compare the original with the paraphrase version and think about the points that we discussed today. I'm sure these pointers would really help you to self-evaluate if your paraphrase is appropriate or not. Another example is, you remember the example that we did for best citations, inaccurate or incomplete information, or no citation, or too similar. So keep those 4 points in mind. They would help you. How much paraphrasing? Yamini, that's a very crucial question. How much paraphrasing should not even be applicable. Paraphrasing is one technique which you're using when you cannot quote. When you so you are only using information to support your ideas. So paraphrasing, summarizing, or citing sources, citing information in your academic writing is only applicable when you are using other people's ideas to support your claims. So obviously you cannot, if you are paraphrasing too much or if you're citing too much, you lose your voice. You lose your voice in your academic essay. So that should never happen. It should always be used as a supporter, not as a main content of your academic writing. Okay, so my email ID is garima.jnu@gmail.com. One of you has asked that question. While writing a book, the information needs from old work of knowledge. Whether we need to quote or paraphrase all the sentences. Okay. So, Vijaya, when you're writing a book, you write a book, an authored book is usually your own work, right? So even if, now you need to know what kind of work are you really looking at. Some information is common knowledge. It comes in the domain of common knowledge. What is common, you would find in all reference books. So then your book becomes a reference book rather than an authored book, right? And if it is a reference book, common knowledge, if water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, we don't need to quote it. It's common knowledge. But if I say the water boils at 50 degrees Celsius in context to, let's say whatever, I'm not from the chemistry department here, but let's say there is some condition. So in that specific situation, how did that situation emerge or how did you get that information is important. Then you would need to quote the source, right? So you need to know. When do you need to quote or paraphrase? You need to quote when you feel that the original author's quotations can not be substituted. Have to have his original words. Then you quote. Otherwise, it is better to paraphrase. So I hope I've answered that. Why do we need to paraphrase if we are giving due credit to the original author? Isn't it the issue of language use only? No, not at all. So if that information is not your own, if it's somebody else's information, you do need to give credit to the original author in any case. Otherwise, you would be in the bracket of plagiarizing. Do we need to use it for review of related literature? Yes, you can use it, Nisha. It's a wonderful tool. Paraphrasing and summarizing, you can do that. Well, there is no limit to, with respect to the number of words that can be taken in a sentence from the original. But if you are quoting, then there is a limit. There is a very thin line between what amounts to plagiarism. Let's say I have written down a poem of 25 sentences, copying sentences out of those 25. You copying a major my text. So it does leave very little scope. It is open to a lot of discussions. But if it is really important, then you must give a proper quotation and say that you are quoting it from here. But try and avoid it. Your originality is very important, right? One popular publisher and original author lost the case in High Court in case one author copied 100% questions of the exercise. As an original author, what would we do for copyright? Well, there are copyright laws, and the first and foremost rule for any copyright is who published it first. And even if it was published first, doesn't mean there can be a timestamp to a lot of data, a lot of information, and timestamps are important. So, well, the court believes in evidence, and timestamp would be taken into consideration in that case. So, in all probability, can we call paraphrasing as quoting? No, paraphrasing is not quoting. Paraphrasing is writing. Somebody has ideas in your own word. Quoting is without changing the word, not even a single alphabet can be changed here and there is quoting, and it is always in quotation marks. So there is a difference, yes. You cannot call paraphrasing quoting. Any more questions? Okay. What is the best way, summary or paraphrase, for writing chapter review of related literature? It totally depends. Whether you summarize or paraphrase. You can, like I pointed out in the beginning of the lecture, you know, when you are summarizing, you summarize a longer text. You can summarize a book. You can summarize a book like this. I hope you can see, right? So you can summarize a book, but if there is a specific passage, then you will paraphrase it in your own words. You will not summarize it. So that's the difference. Yes, paraphrasing is a part of any academic writing. So it is very much a part of thesis and research paper writing, yes. So now when you go back, you have a look at one or two articles from the internet on a specific topic of your choice and see how the authors have an idea about Sage, Elsevier, Springer. They're good publishers. You can probably have a good idea about how they're publishing because their journals are very reputed. Well, there are no specific books on paraphrasing in academic writing. The book that I have with me, this was gifted to one by my own colleague who had worked with me in the UKLA project. So, but there is no one that fits all. I would suggest that you build on your knowledge and read from the library books, because one of this book would cost you a fortune. So, yeah. Is there any open access to check paraphrasing? Well, there is an open. No, I don't think there's a. Paraphrasing is also. You can check it through Similarity Index when you're using Turnitin. But I am not sure about open access. So I hope this session was useful.
Yes, Dr. Garima, I think it was very, very enlightening for everybody and very useful for everybody. You can see how you went from paraphrasing and also talked about citation, and how you talked about summarizing the differences and everything. That is why all the questions came. Very interactive session. You could see from the chat box how enthusiastically the people were looking for, asking you for the PPT and everything. It was really enlightening for me also.
I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, and we all enjoyed too. And and it was very nice that you took the questions also. Wish I could tell them to speak, but this was good enough. And thank you, Dr. Garima. We can always look up to you for similar sessions.
Absolutely.
And, now
absolutely, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. And now I'll ask Rashmi to please give the vote of it. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. It is indeed our privilege to have very well-known academician Dr. Garima with us on this platform. Her insightful lecture on paraphrasing was full of wisdom and information. The way she has explained the concept was exemplary. Dr. Garima has shared the tips to paraphrase effectively to avoid plagiarism in academic writings. We are sure that you all been benefited and that you will be able to very confidently use this information academically. Once again, I thank you, ma'am, on behalf of all the participants for sparing your precious time with all of us. Thank you so much, Garima ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thanks. It's an honor.
Thank you.